Hey guys, you're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. You've been waiting for this one, and I apologize, but I've been working on it diligently. I've got a new platform attachment method for you. So first off, you're familiar with my website, jrbtreeclimbing.com. That's also the name of my Patreon. If you wish to support me, it's the name of my Facebook group. I've got a Facebook page. I even have an Instagram, whatever that is. Just trying to get the word out in terms of all of the innovations that have come out of my shop. So you've heard me say it before. I reserve the right to make it better. A couple years ago, to the dot, I released a video on platform attachment with mechanical advantage. That video and anything related to what I do today, the knots I tie or systems you see, there's links to all of that in the video description for this video, but also my website is always the first point of reference. That platform attachment method, although it worked great, there were some things that I didn't love about it. And we're going to show you something really cool. I don't know if anybody's got an attachment method, anything like this. And if you can tie the knots, you can build it yourself. I don't sell it or anything. When I hunt, this is the way I walk into the woods. I don't use a backpack because everything I need can go in my saddlebags. I wear a small crossbody bag, but I wear my climbing system, which is a rope. Sometimes I use a platform, and when I do, I've got a sling around my shoulder. And sometimes I use this Maverick pole. And what I can do with the Maverick pole is engage it with the platform such that they become stabilized. So even if you're on the ground and you're crawling through anything, I mean, I can't get this to make a sound or to fall off of me. I am going to go over the features of this platform as I use them, not necessarily in priority order. So I've still got it on my sling, and I'm going to leave the sling around my neck because I can't drop it. You'll notice that the attachment system is on the platform, and no matter what, because there's no metal, I can't make any noise. So let's start with the next feature being the fact that as I'm taking this off, if I were to drop this, I had gloves on and I drop it, it's attached to the platform, so it can't reasonably come off. So it's fairly stable, but yet it is removable. Why would it need to be removable? Well, I'll explain. Under normal conditions, a tree like this, where I can reach around the tree, I can just reach around, I would pass this around from left to right. But if the tree was bigger, I can remove this on that rare occasion that I'm working with a really big tree. And on the one end, I've got a flopper knot. And the flopper knot, as you know, has got some mass. And therefore, I can toss this around a fairly large tree with high reliability. Let's assume the tree was even bigger. I'll get further from it. Right? Look how big a tree. You get to choose how much rope you use, but you get the point. Let's go back and show it to you on a normal diameter tree. It's pretty obvious that it works on a small tree. It's a really small tree. You might want to go around the tree 2 times, right? Because that'll give you better hold and some real estate. On the other end of the system, I have only got 2 contraptions here. It looks like more, but it's 2. It is a Longhorn Agile with the stable loop option and a Blake's Hitch tensioner tied out of an old ratty piece of TRC, and I'm going to retie this for you. And then on the end of it, I have another Blake's hitch such that I can more easily remove this. Let's put it on the tree. So initially, we can tension this, put it on my platform, so it's around the tree, and I start to take the tension out this way using the self-tending feature of the Longhorn Agile. I want to get it roughly where I want it. Now I can take the sling off, and I'll get it positioned roughly under my tie-in. It tends to pull because the mechanical advantage is on the right. It tends to pull a couple of inches to the right. So I'm going to hold it up here horizontally, get all the slack out I can with the Longhorn Agile. But now you're going to see this thing get tension. Okay, so let's zoom in and keep an eye here. I've got a couple fingers I can get behind here. Let's look from roughly here to here. I'm pulling to tension the Blake's Hitch tensioner. Pulling, pulling, pulling. Remember, I might be off the ground. My feet aren't on the ground right now. And therefore, I have the tree to help me. These lines are already fairly tense, but I can really crank on this. Ready? Here I go. I'm going to pull. That line is extremely tight. Look. Now I'm going to hop up a couple steps. Okay, so let's watch that platform as I put my weight on it for the very first time. I don't know if you can see this, but this is touching the tree. This outer tooth isn't, but the two middle ones are. It's just a big tree. So if I tried to toe hook it, let's watch how much I get out of a toe hook. Let's just keep an eye out. I'm going to put 100% of my weight on the outside and put 100% of my weight on this side. The ability for your platform to stay stable has to do with how tight you get it and how horizontal these lines are. Okay, so I'm now in the middle of rappel. My feet are not on the ground. One of the issues with the Blake's Hitch tensioner, we can get it really tight, but removing it can be difficult. So I'll unset the platform, but I've got an extra Blake's Hitch here. This is a simple Blake's Hitch attached to the release side of the Blake's Hitch tensioner. And it's got room so I can get that, and I just give this a tug and it will release the Blake's Hitch tensioner. So that's all I needed. That's all I needed to get it off the button and quietly remove it from the tree. Now, when I do so, I often will put the sling on me because I don't want it to ever, and you can rappel with it open or you can close it back up. Let's just go ahead and close it back up. Now, the exact sequence by which you do this, well, that could vary based on your platform design. I don't pay too much attention to those loops. I just capture them. And there's all kinds of different ways you can finish the end here. And just pull the line behind it. That's pretty stable. The attachment system, and I'm not going to demonstrate it, but if you're left-handed or you're right-handed or the tree's got some branches on one side so you can't flip it from your preferred side, you can flip it from the other. Because it's removable, it works both ways. And lastly, although my saddle only has one button, some saddles have two. And I urge you, by the way, never to modify your platform. Always use what the manufacturer gives you. Single button platforms have opposing forces on that pin. So in theory, your pin doesn't need to be nearly as strong as it does when you're putting that much tension on two buttons or pins. But it works on platforms with both. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this off and I am going to be rebuilding it with new cords. Okay, so let's build our tensioner. I used 8mm rope and 6mm cord. I do love this Sterling TRC 6mm cord, but there are a number of high quality 8mm static low stretch climbing ropes on the market and more coming. And so that is simply a detail. In terms of geometry though, your platform has to have enough room so that if under the button, if I put the 8mm rope there and a 6mm cord here, it's got to allow this cord to run. And often the platform doesn't have that much room. So if you zoom in, I inserted a very small washer right there just to give me another 1/16 or so of room to make sure that I get those free running. Because if not, this will act as a brake, and we don't want that to act as a brake. In terms of the quantities, I cut 12 feet of 8mm rope. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It's going to allow me to get into just about any tree I need to. And so you might want to go with less, but think it through. We all know the formula that the circumference of a tree is pi times the diameter. You can do the math and estimate the biggest tree that you might ever climb. But I prefer to have a couple extra feet in case I ever need it climbing a giant tree. And in terms of the cord, you'd need to purchase about 16 feet. I always like to have some extra. What I have is 2 lengths cut at 76 inches and 1 length cut at 32 inches. And all of my cords are sealed with heat shrink tubing. And as an alternative, you can always use electrical tape. And the last thing you'll need is a small piece of tubular webbing. Now I hate to send you to go shopping for such a small item, but maybe when you made your Garda Hitch foot loop you saved the tag ends. I always have some scraps laying around. It's good to have some of these materials. This will be used as effectively a friction saver inside of the Blake's Hitch tensioner. In terms of the knots you need to know, there are supporting videos on all of them. They include the flopper knot, the Longhorn Agile hitch in the stable finish, the Blake's Hitch and Blake's Hitch tensioner, and a simple bowline. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to take my rope, and out of view, I'm going to measure 24 is about the least I can get away with, so I'm going to choose 25 inches. I've got 25 inches hanging down here, and I'm going to tie a flopper knot. So see the prior video on the flopper knot. I assume about 1/3 of that. I'm going at normal speed here. Normal speed. And we want our flopper knot to come out. We might have to tie it a couple times. We want it to come out such that the resulting load loop fits on our button with just the right amount of resistance to put it on. So here I just tied a flopper knot. It's set, not set incredibly tight yet, and look, I can get that on there, and that will stretch. It will stretch a bit after I really load it, but first time's a charm. Let's go with that. That's the one end. See my video on the flopper knot. See if that holds. Okay, next we're going to tie the Longhorn Agile hitch with one of these 76-inch lengths of cordage. So I'm going to go here at normal speed. I've got 12 inches of working end. Let's form the Longhorn first. Dedicated video on the Longhorn. It's a component in building the Longhorn Agile. Some folks who aren't familiar with my channel are going to say, well, John, you went too fast. But others who are familiar with these tools and have them in your toolbox are going to say you shouldn't have included that detail. I already know how to do that. And so I have to just cut and run and make a decision and consider this a review if you're familiar with it, and see the video description for links to all of the supporting videos. I just tied a Longhorn loop, or effectively a Longhorn hitch, around my finger. And now I'm going to tie the Longhorn Agile hitch, but we want to make sure we get our direction of pull correct. This is the anchor end up here in the tree, right? So that's the flopper knot that's going to go around one side, and we'll be pulling in this direction. So if we hang that, so if you refer to the length specifications for the Longhorn Agile hitch, you know that it's about a 17.5, maybe 18, depending on your rope. That's the size of your working loop. And I'll start to tie that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Around the back twice. Okay, so that's the Longhorn Agile hitch. I'm going to turn it around backwards. And we're going to be configuring this in the stable finish. So I shorten the loop going in. See, the dedicated video was just released on the stable finish for the Longhorn Agile. And we're going to be putting a piece of webbing right here. I just demonstrated this. Okay, well, how much distance do I have right there? My measuring device is all tied up. It's about 3.5 inches. Now here's a piece of webbing I already cut at that length. I'm not going to even measure. Here's a new piece. I need about 1.5 inches here at the end, so I'm just going to estimate that. I'm going to cut this. One lesson I learned is if we're going to flame this to keep it from fraying, because that's its nature, we're going to want to just touch it, because if we put too much flame on this, it'll close. It'll basically get smaller. So I'm just going to singe the ends a tiny bit. You might have a heat gun to cut yours. That's fine. And now I'm going to slide it on. And this is a little bit difficult. You want to pinch that end. Well, that one went a little bit easier. Then I simply pop that loop through this one and go around the entire assembly. "76 inches of cord and a Longhorn Agile on 8mm rope is about as compact as I can get this thing. And we want it to be pretty compact because we don't want to be reaching around the tree too far to get this engaged. Now, if we wanted to, if we don't care about metal contact, we don't care about a ring clanging against our platform, we could have put a ring in there. And it does work better. It's a little bit more efficient, but there's nothing more annoying than setting up your platform in the dark and having the ring contact anything. And that was one of the shortfalls in the prior system I gave you for mechanical advantage with the platform. We're eliminating the metal. And what are we sacrificing? Well, some efficiency. So having a length of cord ride through here, well, that's kind of inefficient. And this webbing is subject to wear. If you were to look very closely at the piece I've used, well, there's some wear there. You're going to want to monitor that, maybe change it every season. It's a tiny little piece of webbing. Depends how much you use it and how hard you crank it. But just want you to be aware, I don't recommend using it without the webbing, because then we're really going to put concentrated rope on rope contact right on the cords. Okay, next we are going to build a Blake's Hitch tensioner right here. Now for reference, I've tied this one in yellow cord. I'm going to attach it with a carabiner. This is the Blake's Hitch tensioner. It's a tensioning device whereby if I pull on this line, I am applying tension here with mechanical advantage. And to release it, I pull on this line. Now it is difficult to release it under tension. And so we're going to build one of these. We're going to build it right onto the load end of the Longhorn Agile, and we're going to attach a second Blake's hitch here to ensure that we can release it under tension. Okay, so let's build a Blake's hitch tensioner. I'm going to take the other 76-inch length of TRC and I'm going to feed it through the loop. With the other end, I'm going to measure 32 inches, which is more than enough for my working end. And as per the video, Blake's Hitch Tensioner version 2, I'm going to start tying my Blake's Hitch right here. I'll zoom in a bit, but again, I'm going to do this in real time. And please be sure you're familiar with the Blake's Hitch Tensioner. I'm using 5 upward wraps. So far, everything's normal. This is just a normal Blake's hitch. Make it snug, but not too snug. Then, as per the design of the Blake's Hitch tensioner, take this line up, put it up and through, gather these fairly close to the top. Then I'll take the working end, goes down and across the front, and then behind those 2 strands. That becomes my reliable tender. I don't try to make that too tight. I don't try to make it too loose. And then I feed this down through these 2 strands, the bottom of the Blake's hitch. So you could say it's a modified Blake's hitch, but it does hold. Got that roughly where I want it. And then to stabilize the Blake's Hitch tensioner, this is the working end. We go around the back, capturing the other side, and bring it through the Blake's hitch. And I pull on it, make sure I'm not squeezing it too tight, all right? I wouldn't want that. Right there, I'm going to put a double overhand stopper knot here. So it's kind of hard to tie a double overhand just perfectly, but what I recognized is I made it a little bit tighter to compensate for the fact that it would expand a little. And right now this looks pretty good. This line is not being subjected to any excessive bend. And we can do a quick test on it. It's getting shorter, and now it's getting longer. Okay. Now on this end that I used to tension it, we're going to create a bowline. Now the exact size of the bowline, well, that's kind of a tuning constant in this whole thing. You get to decide how big the bowline should be. It's going to act in 2 capacities. I assume you know how to tie a bowline. Everybody's got videos on the bowline except for me. Maybe someday. But now that acts as a stopper knot, I can't accidentally pull the end through, and I've got something nice and strong with which to tension it. Get 2 fingers through here. And you can see the length of my draw. You know, it's about a foot of working room that I can draw this in. I never want to draw it all the way in. Okay, next we're going to attach the release line. So it'll generally sit against the tree this way for a right-hander, where I'm tensioning it on the top and the release line's on the bottom. So I'm going to tie a Blake's hitch right here with that 32-inch piece of cord. I can't give you an exact, I could, but I haven't measured it. I'm going to tie a simple Blake's hitch here with that 32-inch cord. Four wraps is good. Standard Blake's hitch. These are tools in our toolbox. I only have to tie this once. Occasionally pop open your Longhorn Agile to inspect that webbing. So I just tied a Blake's hitch. Congratulations, John. But what's special about this one? Well, I can use it. See, it tends itself. You see how this is operating? I tension here. If that Blake's hitch hits the other one, it tends out of the way, and I get a lot of tension. And once I get to the point of maximum tension and my platform is set and I want to remove tension, I pull on the other line. Gave it one pull, I can shove it back and get some more. But again, I'm going to need to apply a firm grip on this. And so I'm going to use another bowline. And you can if you don't want things to get mixed up, you don't want these to be confused with one another in the dark. Well, I've got a little extra room here. What I could do is make the small bowline, the small one, will be the one I use to tension it. And the big bowline, well, that'll be the one I use to release it. You could label them, you could color them, you could spray paint them, you could tape them. You could do whatever you wanted to customize yours. Okay, now this is basically it. When we attach it though to the button, it's important that we don't get a removal Blake's hitch in the wrong place. And so it'll generally sit this way. It'll sit here, I'll tension it, and then I'll release it. But I'm just going to warn you in advance, if you for some reason get this Blake's hitch here, and you tighten it, well, now you're kind of in a position where it's going to be really difficult to release. I'm not saying it's impossible. I haven't tested this at an incredible load level, and you can always try to break this. But just letting you know, there's one gotcha in this entire design. It's simply that you can't get your Blake's hitch in the wrong place. Okay, let's go see this go on a tree. Okay, I just built this system. Let's watch it go on the tree. It goes on the button. I pre-tensioned it a little bit just to make sure it goes on the button of my saddle, on the button of my platform, okay? But again, if I'm working with a really big tree, and this one's bigger than the last one, I might want to remove it so that I can get my flopper knot around the tree, then attach it to the button. Here's the parts. It looks like a lot, but you know what they are. Here is the Longhorn Agile, and here's the Blake's hitch tensioner. So right now, here is the draw side, right? And here's the release side. We always want our Blake's hitch on the right side, on the opposite side, so that it's in a position to do the release. So when I put it on, here's how I put it on. I usually like the loop up when I'm on the right side of the tree. Simply to put it around the button, and I pre-tension it by removing slack from the Longhorn Agile. Roughly position it where I want to on the tree, and try to keep it horizontal. You don't want any extra sag. You want it horizontal. And once we have in that position, give a little tug here. Now I'm going to remove my sling. I'm going to put it up, and now I'm going to pull on this. Now, I cam it down. Look at that. Nice and tight against the tree. If I have to tow hook it, but you know this thing is tight based on this geometry. These lines are still fairly horizontal. And to remove it, now it might be possible to break this, but not always. So what I do to remove it is pull on the release side. Now that can be, you can basically figure on the same amount of force that you took to tension it, you're going to need that to release it. So I never quite want you to pull every ounce of strength you have. You just don't need it. You just don't need every bit of strength. Let's let a little strength, So now it's loose. So this, I just give this a moderate pull. That's good. And look, it's firmly against the tree. Again, remember to have this in the right position. We don't want it on the other side, or we'll have a bit more of an ordeal getting it off. There we go. Now I can break this. All right, guys, there you have it. Platform attachment. It's better than the last one. And again, remember, I reserve the right to improve things. But check the website. It's got all the details. And good luck. Thank you.